What is up, Pauper players? Welcome back to another Salt and Pauper Saturday video, and today I have a very special, fun, new brew to start off the new year. This is a deck that Kalikaz has recently published and done very, very well with, so I wanted to give it a try because it reminds me of an old modern deck that some of you might remember. So let's dive into the deck tech and show you what we're working with today. All right, everyone, this is the deck we're going to be playing this week. This is an all-in red turbo initiative deck using things like Lotus Petal and the depletion lands, along with Simian Spirit Guide, Namestar Goblin, and the 4-drop emblem producers. This deck is a really interesting turbo deck in that it has kind of a backup plan of Synthesizer, Bushwhacker, Tomb Raider, and Koldatha Rebirth. A lot of the all-in or turbo red or turbo initiative strategies just kind of all-in blitz for that initiative on turn one and then hope that it holds. This deck has a little bit of a different plan, and you will see it come into play in our demo game. So let's run through the deck tech real quick. We have a total of 4 Great Furnaces. We have a total of 7 mountains. Now you'll notice one here is a different mountain than the others. This was actually by design. I'll get into that in just a second. We have 4 Sandstone Needles here, 4 Lotus Petals, of course. We have 4 Koldatha Rebirths, 4 Lightning Bolts, 4 Rite of Flames. This is one of our primary ramp sources. And then we have a single Goblin Grenade hanging out here, 4 Synthesizers, 4 Bushwhackers, 4 Tomb Raiders. We have 4 Simian Spirit Guides, 4 Namestar Goblins, 4 Crimson Fleet Commodores, and 4 Trailblazers Torches. So the deck is very, very narrowed in, and there are exactly 2 flex slots. Well, you only see 1 Goblin Grenade, but that is in fact what this extra marked mountain is for. This, when discussing with Kalikaz, was part of the deck design. He played an extra mountain of a very specific type to note when he drew it so that he could decide whether or not this was better at a mountain or a second Goblin Grenade. Keep an eye out for that during our games, and then post your comments below which one you think it should be, but I have some thoughts. Going into the sideboard, we have 5 Blue Blasts. Again, you can make whatever mix you have. I have 4 Red Elemental Blasts and a single Pyroblast. You could reverse it. You can mix and match, but you want 5 of these effects. 3 Flaring Pains, 4 Cast into the Fires, and 3 Fiery Cannonades. Very focused deck list. The sideboard is a little bit interesting with these Fiery Cannonades. I do like that they don't affect your Crimson Fleets, but I wonder if maybe they might be better off as something like Goblin Cave, like we had in the Goblin Storm deck a few weeks ago. These Cast into Fires are fine, although I didn't need them in my test games, so maybe they're not really necessary right now. Seems to me like a lot of this sideboard is dealing with your opponent's plan, except for these Flaring Pains here, and I would much rather deal with my plan. So the Red Blasts and the Flaring Pains make sense to me, but the Cast into Fires and the Fiery Cannonades a little bit less so. Definitely confused by the Fiery Cannonades. I understand what they're there for, but at the end of the day, I really would like to try to make sure my plan goes smoothly, rather than sacrificing cards from my plan to try to impact my opponent's plan. Not 100% sure how that's going to work, just because this deck does rely on kind of a critical mass of cards. There's not a whole lot of draw power in here, and you rely on these emblems quite a bit to carry you once you've committed, so these synthesizers really kind of have to go the distance. That's maybe one consideration for the flex slot. Maybe a 2 of Reckless Impulse or something like that could see play here. But let's get into the games, guys. I have a couple exciting games for you. So let's kick off match number 1. All right, match number 1 starting against JXXPSC. We lose the die roll, so unfortunately we are on the draw. That's not exactly what you want. This is a very weird hand, but certainly not a keep. Now, there are some hands with no lands that you will keep with this deck, strangely enough. I definitely kept a 0 land hand against an opponent in paper at one of my locals this week, where I was also playing this deck, and ended up winning that game. Very, very fun hand to keep. A little bit wacky, but it ended up working out where I was able to turn 1 the Monarch and then hold it for several turns until I drew myself out of the land screw. Really interesting deck in terms of the mulligan phase, but there's not really much interesting or thought-worthy about this hand. This is very clearly a mulligan. This hand on the other side is a clear keep. The only real decision we have is what to throw back here. For me, it's either the Tomb Raider or the Lightning Bolt. Not sure which is more valuable against an unknown opponent. We do throw back the Tomb Raider, and off we go. Opponent leads on a Serrated Scorpion, so that could signify either Mono Black Sacrifice or some sort of black burn deck. Sign in Blood doesn't really reveal much to us, although Sacrifice would usually play something like Deadly Dispute or Village Rites. We hit the land drop, which is great. It means we can save our Lotus Petal. We go ahead and Sticker Goblin into a Synthesizer, into a Trailblazer's Torch, so we do hit our payoff, which is what we were after there. We go ahead and drop a Kuldotha Rebirth on the Great Furnace. This is mainly just to ensure that our opponent can't take the initiative from us. We're going to forge up on this token. We're going to get him in there. Play another Rebirth and pass the turn with a Lightning Bolt open. Opponent going to Alms the Veins here, which is buying a lot of time between that and the Vampire's Kiss from the previous turn. Already gained 5 life on it, should be at 13. Is now at 13 after the trap, so should be at 8. We're going to equip the Trailblazer's Torch and swing in. This is just to prevent a double block on the Name Sticker Goblin. We left 2 goblins back just to ensure if they took it all that we could maintain the initiative. We're going to head to the archive here. We draw another Trailblazer's Torch, so we're going to progress to the Throne of the Dead 3. We're going to play a Crimson Fleet Commodore off the ultimate there and swing in from the opponent. They double block, but they Reckoner's Bargain 1, so they're going to deal us 4 here and gain 4, leaving them at 16. They are dead next turn, but unfortunately we're dead now. They have double Tyrant's Choice to nuke us from 8. So, unfortunate end there, but let's go to game number 2. All right, game 2, we are on the play. This is definitely a keep. This is a turn 1 initiative if we want it, so we're going to run it. And let's see what happens. We are, in fact, going to go for the turn 1 initiative here. This is a little bit loose considering we only have a Lightning Bolt in hand, but we're really hoping to draw into some sort of pressure here. Opponent leads on a Reckoner Raid, which is very slow and does us the favor of not providing any pressure here. We're going to draw a Tomb Raider Goblin just so we do have some pressure and something to defend our initiative. We do put that, that Name Sticker Goblin on top, just so that if we draw something else, we can play it. Opponent on double Hopeless Nightmare, we're going to go ahead and bolt in response so we don't discard it. Equip up, swing for 2, pass back to the opponent. We went to the right side of the dungeon this time, so we do have a stash token as treasure to play the Name Sticker in case we draw anything worth it. We're going to Catacombs for a menace here. We are going to commit the Name Sticker Goblin into the Kuldotha Rebirth here, sacrificing the Torch. This just gives us a full board. Opponent going to trade the Road Captain, which is pretty good. It was a menace creature, so we wanted to make sure that they weren't able to swing into us. They have a Vampire's Kiss. We're going to go ahead and drop the Crimson Fleet Commodore off the Initiative Ultimate there. Swing in for 9. Opponent going to go for the double Tyrant's Choice, but only has 1. Plays the Serrated Scorpion. And we are able to swing in for lethal here. And off to a game 3 we go. All right, game number 3 against the opponent here. We are naturally on the draw as we won the last game. This is definitely a keep. This has a lot of pressure built into it. If we hit a Kuldotha Rebirth, we are in very, very good. But we are going to keep this hand and start it off. Opponent leads on a Serrated Scorpion, which is fine. We're going to lead on at least a Tomb Raider. We hit a Simian Spirit Guide, which opens up this Lotus Petal to double Tomb Raider. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to swing in here and start pressuring the opponent very quickly. We can't let them life gain away from us like last time. They bring in a Trespasser's Curse, which would hurt against the rebirth lines that this deck can have. Fortunately, we don't have any in hand right now, so we're just going to commit. My reasoning for committing this Bushwhacker is mainly that draws like Golgotha Rebirth are going to gain the opponent a whole bunch of life that we don't want them to have, and we just want to put as much pressure on them as possible. They Sovereign's Bite, bumping the knight down us to 10 and go up to 15. Fortunately, they're running out of cards here. They're only at 2 in hand, and we have 7 damage on the board. So, although we are drawing lands here, we are putting a bunch of pressure. Opponent at 11 now. We just have 7 to attack with, though. No additional pressure. Opponent goes down to 4. Has a lot of redraws here for lethal outs, but doesn't find any with the Reckoner's Bargain. Just puts us down 5, passes the turn, and GG's to the opponent. Swing in for lethal there on turn 5. So GG's to the opponent, JXXPSC. Very cool variant of Mono Black Burn. It has been seeing a little bit of a resurgence lately, so interesting to face it in our matches this week. But the deck performed pretty well. We didn't always go big, but it definitely seems fast enough on the backup plan, even if we don't have initiative or an emblem. So on to match number 2, which gets very spicy against a mono blue opponent. All right, match number 2 against Cram1138. We have a very keepable hand, but we are on the draw. That is okay, though. We're not really sure what the opponent is playing, so no reason to get greedy here and go for a super turbo hand. This is a triple Tomb Raider hand with a Great Furnace, so definitely going to put up some pressure. We have a Synthesizer and a Commodore in case we hit ramp, so this is definitely a keep. Let's run it. Opponent leads on an island. It doesn't change a ton for us on turn number 1. Opponent considers at end of turn and flips a Delver, so we definitely know we're against mono blue now. We're going to tap for a Sandstone Needle and try to play these double Tomb Raiders without an artifact in play just to see if the opponent would let it sneak through. They have a counterspell, so they counterspell the first one, but we're able to follow it up with 2 more. Hit the opponent down to 16. Opponent just plays the land and passes back. We're going to lead on a Synthesizer, see if they'll take the bait. They don't, so we're just going to attack for 4 here and pass it again. Opponent taps out on 4 for Deep Analysis, which is an interesting line against the mono red deck. It allows me to full commit here for a Monarch, swing and put them down to 8. Opponent goes for a Cryptic Serpent here. That's fine. We're going to be able to offer a trade here with the Crimson Fleet Commodore. Opponent keeping what looks like a counterspell up. We're just going to offer the trade here. They take it, go down to 4. We hit our 4th Goblin Tomb Raider. Wild draw RNG. But we have a lot of mana available to us. Opponent flashbacks Deep Analysis, goes down to 1. Really digging for some answers here. And we take game number 1 from the opponent and they scoop. GG's to the opponent. Let's go to sideboard and game number 2. All right, game number 2 against our mono blue opponent. We are indeed bringing in all 5 of our counter spells. We're taking out a single Simian Spirit Guide and 4 Trailblazers Torches. This line was basically leaning on the backup plan as the main strategy against mono blue. In my opinion, when I looked at the deck, it looked like the emblem for Trailblazers Torch was the weakest emblem. It also looked like the main strategy of all-inning for a big emblem is the weakest to counter spells, and Trailblazers Torch was the only emblem maker that was vulnerable to Spell Pierce. Ultimately, this line could be wrong, but I think that it's the right direction to take the deck against things like Mono Blue Tempo that has evasive threats that can steal the emblems back. So I want to cut down on emblems, cut up on counterspells, and basically just hard commit to the Goblin aggro strategy going forward. The Monarch is a reasonable card. It trades with both Terror and Cryptic Serpent, so that's why I kept the Commodores in instead of the Trailblazer's Torch. But let's go off to game number 2. All right, opponent keeps his 7. We are definitely keeping this 7. This is a hell of a hand. Can definitely turn to a Goblin. We just need to hope that they tap for like, I don't know, the Modern Age or some sort of a turn 2 play here, but that doesn't seem super likely. We'll see what the opponent does, though. Off we go. All right, we just lead on a Sandstone Needle here. Set up as many possible turn 2 options as we can. Opponent plays an island, just passes back with the counterspell up. Unfortunately, we can't really play into that, so we're just going to Synthesizer here. Opponent plays Delver, keeps counterspell up. We're just going to play another Synthesizer here and then go for a Goblin Tomb Raider. Really trying to play underneath the counterspell, make him counter something we don't care about. We do still have the secret ability to go for a Sticker Goblin here with this Rite of Flame, so... Opponent taps out for a Deep Analysis, and it is go time. We're going to Sticker Goblin into a Synthesizer, hit a Rebirth, sack the other Synthesizer for a token, Goblin Bushwhacker, and GG's to the opponent. This is absolutely a lethal swing. On turn 4, very, very fast deck and very, very fast match. But what an absolutely disgusting turn 4. Opponent tapped out for that Deep Analysis, just like he did in game 1, and we were waiting. Alright guys, that is all I have for you this week. Had a lot of fun testing this deck. I think that it is a very solid, aggressive list. I like that it has a backup plan in just being an aggro Cold Author red deck. Ultimately, regarding the flex slots, both this Mountain and Goblin Grenade, the Goblin Grenade was useful to me a few times throughout my testing through the week. I do like the ability to have that reach, but this Mountain was largely kind of floating in the ether. I could have grabbed it with the Initiative emblem several times, but it was never relevant. I just grabbed a different Mountain and saw if I ever drew this, but I never did. I only drew it, I think, one time, and when I did, it was a dead land, so pretty sure this doesn't need to be a Mountain. I would like to see maybe trying both of these as like a Reckless Impulse, something like that, as some additional card draw just to commit to. But with double 4-drops, the Reckless Impulse definitely seems risky. Not 100% sure that's correct. I think that's just the direction that I would try to test next. Maybe the second Goblin Grenade is right, but it was almost never lethal for me, so not 100% sure what the correct direction is to take it. I just know that it probably shouldn't be a Mountain. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy the deck. Give this a try. We've got the deck links down below. As usual, goodbye forever, unless I see you next time.